So today is going to be an exceptional day. We have Neal Pogue in the building. For some of you guys that don't know, he's done some of the greatest engineering, mixing, production on some of your favorite records. Like, I mean, think about Hey Ya, right? Like, how many of us were listening to that summer of, what was that, 2000? And then even just recently getting off of Igor with Tyler, the Creator. I mean, I'm ready to just go straight in, but he's also a father, a mentor, and so many more things. We're going to learn a lot about him. Neal, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, Augie? My man, Augie. How are you?
Good, man.
It's good to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you.
Appreciate that.
Are you still biking?
You know what? I look at my bike every day and I need to dust it off.
Oh, man.
Before the summer's over. I've been working so much, I haven't had a chance to bike. I used to bike over here.
Yeah.
I used to come over here and check you out. And, but I don't live that far from here, so it's great, but I need to get back on my bike again.
Yeah, that's one thing I was like, man, I mean, you're in shape, you know what I mean? Very healthy.
I try.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been a while. I need to get back in the gym.
Yeah.
But it's no excuses, but man, I need to get back on it.
Yeah. Before all the chaos,
Right.
Did you have a routine of I've been asking people this because
I
into
need
the
a
morning routine.
That's what I need. I need somebody to, you need that army sergeant to pour cold water on you in the morning and scream at you. That's what I need. I need that type of regimen.
Yeah. What's been going on right now that's been taking up a lot of the time?
Oh man, just juggling projects, man. Just juggling things between Kimba on Republic and then Carolyn Rose on New West Records out of Nashville, and who else? Ryan Betty on Interscope, and
Wow.
They on Warner, and who else? Doing Duckworth, and I'm all over the place. And Cherokee's
Wow.
record, and I'm just juggling, man. It's never like one after another. It's never like, okay, get done with one and jump on it. No, it's like everything is, at the same time, jumping back and forth. And
Isn't that fun though? All right.
it's fun, but that's just because I just hate to say no, because I just love to work. And if I'm not busy, that drives me crazy. So it's a blessing to work. I get that work regimen from my grandfathers, who I used to just watch how they worked and how they always kept busy. It kept them going. And I have that same thing ingrained in me.
Yeah.
I just have to work, have to go.
Oh, that's good work ethic. I mean, I think, the funniest thing is this morning and, lately I've been thinking of conditioning brain, right? Rather than the unconditioned brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thought of being left-handed, right? Or right-handed, you need both of your hands.
Most definitely.
But we're told that we're only good with one hand when we come out. Hey, you write with your right hand. But I was recently listening to the study on the brain and understanding that actually when you use a different part of your body that you don't typically use, you open up that prefrontal cortex,
Makes
right?
sense, yeah.
And so I think the same thing might apply to just music, right?
Right.
I mean, the thing that I like about you the most is the fact that you're so diverse, right? With it's not coming to you and going, oh, we need you to, come over here and produce or, mix or whatever the case is. It's like you can do them all at the same time as being able to pick different genres that are, for some people would be like, wait, how are you doing, a Kimba record and then also, over here doing Duckworth's album?
Right.
It's, it's kind of, up and so how do you navigate through that?
I don't know sometimes, man. It's a lot of prayer and just being thankful, being grateful that I can do that. And I don't know, sometimes I guess it's from being an ex-drummer, using your left and right hand and using your, your feet and your hands at the same time in rhythm. So I guess my brain is in a certain type of rhythm where I can juggle things at one time, and being the timekeeper, I guess, watching the band and being in bands, the guitar player with everybody is depending on me to keep the time. So I guess I apply that to life, period.
That's amazing. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like that. I never looked at it I like that. It's you really have to be, it takes a certain amount of skill and a certain amount of just willingness to get to a place where you can actually conduct. They said that Steve Jobs is probably one of the best conductors of all time,
Yeah,
you know,
amazing.
because it's not necessarily like you have to, play every instrument and do everything, but
Yeah.
you are actually the captain of the ship, and
Right.
you're the one that actually tells everybody what to do and how to do those things,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. He's definitely one of my greatest inspirations, you know, just Steve Jobs. He was amazing. You know what I mean? The things that he accomplished within his short time of being here on this earth. And it's sad that he's not here, because I would imagine what he'd be doing with Apple and the iPhone now. You know what I mean? And I'm sure he'd probably be pissed off at some things they're doing with the iPhone.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Colors changing?
Yeah,
What? Like,
right. What do you mean you can't have the headphone and charge the phone at the same time? What are you, crazy?
Yeah.
So just, so funny. Every time I look at my phone, I think of him, because I'm thinking, why can't I charge my phone and use my headphones at the same time? So I wonder if he'd be pissed off about that, because, you got to stop and charge your phone, and you can't, because, you want to have that, you want to have those things where you can do two things at one time. It's like driving and being on speakerphone at one time. Like, if you don't have a speakerphone, come on,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I don't want to be able to stop and then I got to use my speakerphone. No, I want to use my speakerphone and drive at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
You got to be familiar with, society, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that's really cool, I think, that you just noted about Steve Jobs is the fact that, he's always thinking about the next step, right?
Right.
And also keeping people in mind. How do you think that transcends in music?
Making it easier for us too. I mean, he was really, it seemed like he was into making life easier for us, having access to certain things, you know what I mean? So I'm sorry, what was your question?
No, I was saying, how do you think that transcends in music currently? Do you feel like, I mean, as far as, I definitely look at you as a pioneer and as well as a trendsetter, and
Thank you.
being able to, one, have that longevity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think about a goal, right? And then they get to that goal and they realize within that goal that, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because you can stay there basking in that goal.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I've reached success and I've done this and but you have persevered even past those goals, I believe, and so tell us about that. Tell us how
I guess being anti-pessimist, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what it is. I call it that. It's like, I'm the type of person who thinks all things are possible. I don't think negative at all. Of course, I get upset about things. I get irritated about things, but I'm always positive. I always think that everything is doable. You know what I mean? And I think that's why I'm such a juggler too, because I believe that I can do several things at one time. It just comes down to scheduling and making sure that I can get it done in a timely fashion. Some people think some people just want to go, oh, well, yeah, maybe that won't happen, or maybe, nah, I can't think that way. I got to think that it is going to happen, and at least I can wake up in the morning and know that I tried. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing I just believe in, knowing that I tried. If it didn't work, it just didn't work. But at least I tried. It's better than saying, oh, that's not going to work, so let's not try it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think the last time I saw you, I met you over at Paramount, and you were working on what's his name, the drummer,
Who was it?
drummer singer, Anderson .Paak. You were working on Anderson .Paak stuff, and just seeing your process. I mean, I've come into the room while you've mixed some of my stuff, or mixed other people's stuff, and your process seems different every single time. Walk us through your creative process of how you, just
my creative process. It comes down to who I'm working with. You know what I mean? And that's and it's hard to explain because it can be different at any given time. So when people ask me that, it's hard to really get into it because sometimes I don't know. It's such a reactive thing, when I work with different artists, because I don't have a template of how I work, because I guess growing up and listening to all types of music, I'm never in a box of anything. That's the thing. I never put myself inside of a box. So at any given time, I'm working on a project and I have to become married to that project for what it is. And so, working on different projects at one time, I take all different approaches on each of those projects. I'm sure that would probably drive another person crazy, but I can't help it. That's how my brain is split up. And so as far as explaining my process, I guess you'd have to be more specific with the question if it's possible. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
And do you find it easier to work on several different projects at one time, or is it easier just to hone in on just one
No,
project?
it's never easier, but it's it's funny you said yes. No, it's never easier to work on it. It's maybe I'm addicted to things being, not to struggle, but kind of being a little bit stressed at any given moment about, oh, I need to finish. I got a deadline. This. Oh no, how come this is not working? Oh, I got to jump on this here. I got to do that. But it's not bad stress. I guess I'm making myself look crazy here, but it's just one of those things where I just love music so much. And when I was growing up, I listened to all types of genres. You know what I mean? And now, even looking how we're infiltrating the whole country market, you know, it's a great thing with Lil Nas X and Blanco Brown is, it just shows that we can't be stopped. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But at the same time, it's twofold. It brings us all together. I think I think deeper about things. Seeing how we've taken over country music, not taking it over, but how we're inclusive now.
Yeah.
Like we can't be shut out. It's just not about, Charlie Pride or I'm sure that there's been other country artists and other country male and females that have been in country music, but they haven't really made a big impact since a Charlie Pride.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So now to see Lil Nas X and see Blanco Brown get into the country market. I know I've gotten off subject. Sorry about that.
No, but I want to capitalize on that subject. I mean, I think one thing that was really good is earlier this year, I went and I traveled abroad. I went to Rome. I went to Paris. I went to all these places.
Oh, I'm jealous, man.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And what made it interesting to me was, one, the idea of what we think is baller or luxurious is, nickels and dimes to, like what Louis the 15th and these guys were doing. They had rooms full of mirrors and gold encrusted, castles and, just amazing, pieces of work, art and things. And what it did was it made me think a bit deeper about America, actually, and how prehistoric we really are in general, like, as far as our reign, if you want to call it, or, at this time, but we're still growing, right? We're still like learning how to build our, Palace of Versailles and maybe we've built some great things in the past, but, to normalize it, I think of, okay, the idea of, African American, and this is something I think about all the time, is the idea of being African American is, being an American, right? And having art and these pieces shown as a part of American history, not just African American history,
Right.
And I think music has really done that, in a instrumental way since it started. It's always been like, oh, Muddy Waters, okay, Elvis Presley, okay, and you move up the chain, and
we've always been suppressed.
Yeah.
We've always been. We're all over we're all over the world as far as our genius and our just being creative. We've been we've been cast aside, and then someone else takes the credit for it. But being in America shows. Traveling shows how young this country really is, and how old the architecture really is. And traveling, you can see the amazing architecture. And when you come here, things are built, and we tend to knock them down. But when we go over abroad, they keep it. They hold it. It's more value there. But here, we'll build something and it's 100 years old, and then we'll knock it down and build something else there, which I think is really, really sad. So we have to hold that history here. But going back to us, people of color, we're, it's amazing how I learn new things every day that we didn't learn in school. And thank God for Google, right? Or we wouldn't know anything about ourselves.
Yeah.
Except for, the same old movies that we make about ourselves. And there's much more movies that we can make about ourselves. So many different biopics that I think that should be made about us, that we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
Totally.
Of telling the story and teaching everybody, not just our children, but teaching the world of how much we have contributed to this world.
Totally. Yeah, I think that there's like two sides. There's the side that, you have, I feel like, okay, I was watching Morgan Freeman the other day, and Morgan Freeman has this quote where he's like, I don't want to have Black history anymore. You know what I mean? And I don't want to have, these other celebrations of Black culture or whatever, right? And, at a second, I kind of was like, what are you talking about? But then I started to see from his perspective what he might be talking about in the sense of, let's, just like how you brought up little Nas X, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, let's just blend and say what it is that we are, we are this, the understanding that people don't feel like they're included is because just like how I think, spilled milk is spilled milk, whether you see it or not. Right. And so we have, a lot of people that don't feel included as far as us as, colored folks or whatever, it's like, so once we get into that place where we can really, not have to think about it in a sense of, who, of course, it's always going to be who we are and what we've done, but also bringing that perspective where it's like, okay, that's known. We've changed a lot of cultures. I mean, you think about, golf, you think about, even yesterday I was watching bodybuilding with Rodney Coleman, and I was just thinking like, wow, this guy is like out of control. And yet he doesn't have the same perspective of his Arnold Schwarzenegger, although, they even say in the documentary that Rodney Coleman was like warming up with what, Arnold Schwarzenegger was, putting down when he was really going at it. And so to me, it's like, wow, this is like, we're getting to that point. I mean, we still have a long way to go, as you mentioned, but I think music actually kind of is one of those things that you can't really totally tear down. We've tried, I think they've tried to find ways to do that. You can tear down the person. That's the one thing about like studying abroad. They have a very big understanding of, oh wow, this is Elton John and he did this. I mean, like Elton John is like amazing, and out there are, like Michael Jackson and all these things. They preserve the people out there, like, wow, these are, out here, the other day I was at like a conference and, Run comes by, or not Run, DMC, he's like in the group and nobody even acknowledges like, yo, this is, DMC from, Run DMC or whatever. And so the facade is like, oh, you're older, in music, and we got our new guys now. And I feel like that kind of,
we only have moments. It's sad. But yeah, I think sometimes BET and Black History Month kind of reminds me sometimes of how we're not included, like we're still separated, where we have to show people here I am. You know what I mean? The BET and the Black History Month says here we are, which we shouldn't have to raise our hands anymore because we helped build this country as other people of color has as well. But it's sad that we still have to have our little corner, our little moments of what we did, rather than people knowing that we contributed to everything in this country. So why do we have to have, our little this, our little that, just to show that we did something, just as a reminder that we did something? It should be normal life now, that like every human, it shouldn't be, like we shouldn't have to have the Latin Grammys or this Grammy or that. It should be all of us together as one. but it's still these little separated things that it's weird. I know I personally find it to be weird, where we're all human, we're all on this earth, but why does it have to be so much separatism? And that we have to have these little moments where we got to raise our hands like, hey, we did this.
Yeah.
And let me remind you of this. It's Black History Month and this is BET. So it just becomes a little silly after a while, because we got so many other networks, so many cable channels. And we still have the NFL where there is not a Black-owned team. I mean, a team owned by a Black person, that there aren't, a lot of things like in the music business. There is no, I don't think that we've had a Black-owned, I guess, major record label since Motown, but they still consider it an indie label. But come on, that was major. It was huge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we really haven't had a Black-owned record label of that magnitude since a Motown. And how many years was that ago?
Wow.
That really ran the industry. So there's a lot of change that still needs to be made. And we look back on it and go, how come these things are not happening now? You know what I mean? So it's kind of strange.
Yeah, and what do you think that takes? I mean, of course, years and years, but what does that take for us to get to that place?
For us to come together, and plus, it's a power struggle. When we get together, we talk about these things, but people are very sensitive on how we talk about it, and then racism gets into the conversation. You know what I mean? And it's sad that people turn a blind eye to it, but that's what it is. It's a racist society that we live in.
Yeah.
And why is that? And why is it such a power struggle? Why do we have to fight to get something that should be just normal, based on your talent and based on your genius, and just but we're still being shut out. And we're still being used as the help rather than being a leader. I mean, look at the NFL and the NBA. We're still the help. We're getting paid well, but we're still the help.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to this thought of just even industry-wise, like the social conditioning of. Sometimes I look at it like this: is like, okay, urban world. And then you have the pop world, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, they're very separate. Like just growing up in the music industry, as far as being a producer for both industries, in a sense, right? I mean, I think that we're getting to a point where now they're coming together. But I feel like a few years ago is very much like, okay, an urban producer is going to get paid this and this, what I mean? And what I mean by this and this is nickels and dimes for the same record, that if you weren't, a part of the urban sector, right. And you sold that same beat to, the pop side of things, your percentage is going to look 160 times different. Like, and I'm not even exaggerating. I've seen the numbers where I'm like, wow, like I was cool with getting, like $1,000 a track.
Well, let's be real. I mean, hip hop is running this industry right now, and we're still given lower budgets because they know that we create things out of our bedrooms, but at the same time, do we want to be in our bedrooms? I mean, we're in our bedrooms because we don't have the budget to go into a big studio at that moment. Kids are making records out of their closets, but they're still treating us like, oh, keep making your record inside your closet. No, we just did that because we had no choice, but now that you like my record, and now that you want to put my record out because it did so well on the internet, don't keep me in my closet. Don't keep me inside my bedroom. Yeah, I can do that, but you're not forcing a rock artist to make a record inside of his bedroom. You know what I mean?
You're telling them, get outside of that, bedroom. We'll take care of you, and we'll put you in a studio, and we'll make this, work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I won't be shocked if an artist like Lil Nas X is given a smaller budget next time compared to a rock artist. So, oh, you made that record inside of a bedroom. You could do it again and be number one for 20 weeks. Like, no, give us the same budgets so we can stretch, we can do things. We have be a little more comfortable in being creative. Like, we don't want to be stuck in that box.
Totally. I think what this also takes me to is just this understanding of creating a record and having the ability to do more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to be in a space where, I think the thing that to me is the most interesting about like the music industry is the fact that the awareness is
Mm-hmm.
never there as far as what you need to do when you get into the industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that there is, there's people out there that will take you under their wing and show you how to do things. But I think also to look at, some of the things as far as I think that it is a conditioning, but being a part of the urban sector, right? And I hate even using urban or whatever, but
yeah, that word, right?
I don't even know what to call it. But
Mm-hmm.
being a part of that, I feel that there is a lot of people trying to get through one door, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is, you know what? Like, let me sun this guy. Like
Mm-hmm.
rather than, I think there's few people out there that actually teach and they want those
Mm-hmm.
people to succeed that they're with. But there's also the scarcity tactic, which is amongst, us in a sense of, being able to get through this one small door in a sense, because we're not aware of like, we go up, like, you come up under somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and then they kind of show you the ropes, but it's like, oh, like $500 is better than, working at, Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take that. And I thought that this is the way that was supposed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, even amongst us, I think that there needs to be some kind of awareness factor for all of us in a
Mm-hmm.
sense of, what is actually going on and how can we start to, uplift each other amongst it. I'm not saying that it's the whole industry, but I think that there is that like, oh, like, you're not ready yet. You still need to, I do believe in paying your dues and all those things, and everybody has to pay their dues. But
Mm-hmm.
at a certain point, it's kind of like, you only ask for what you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to something else is that we're mentally conditioned, and it's mental slavery. Going back to the kids not knowing things. It's I was at this school at Atlanta, talking to the kids at this recording school, and I'd asked them. I said, "How many of you want to do the music you're doing, and how many of you don't?" Let me go back. I said, how many of you are doing the type of music that you love? And I was surprised that a lot of them were not doing the music that they love, because they were conditioned in thinking that the only way that they can get in, I'm going back to this one door factor, the only way that they could get in was doing what was trendy, doing what that hip hop thing. And a lot of them didn't want to do that, but they felt that was their only way of getting in. And I showed them that you have to understand that labels follow you. So you have the power. And so what I mean by they're mentally conditioned is that they don't know that they have the power. They don't know that the streets have the power. It's like right now, radio doesn't have the power. Radio follows streaming now. So whatever's hot in streaming, that's what radio follows. So a lot of these kids on the street, or this kid that's in the bedroom, doesn't know that he can, create the trend and run this whole thing. And it is being ran without them knowing it. Hip hop is running it. So they're actually leading the charge of the music business, but they don't know that they can do what they want to do, like do what you love and get the power. But it's just this mental conditioning, thinking that, no, you got to do this, like you got to follow this artist. I remember when I was growing up, we took pride in doing our own thing, because if you didn't, you would get clowned. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's why back in the day, you had all these different artists who had different sounds. Like you knew who that artist was by their signature sound. But now when something comes on the radio, you don't know who it is. Mm. You know what I mean? Now it's more about, it's the sound of the producer, but even that's not happening now. Right now, the sound of the producer is actually gone too. That's not even trendy anymore. Now it's like, we don't know who it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't know who's singing. We don't know. The sound is so mushed up together. It's just the same thing. So we have to find a way for everybody to really be on their own thing again. Let's get back to originality, which is so lost now because people are they're scared of it because they think if they're original, then nobody will get on it. But people have to realize that good is good. As long as it's good, people will love it because we're hungry for music. And that's why kids have all these playlists inside their phones because they're hungry for music. But the kids don't realize that. They think, oh no, it's about being trendy. But why do you have all these different things inside your phone if it's so much about trends? It's really about you just loving music. So once we get out of that mode of being controlled, then I think we'll get back to really having amazing music again. And I think we're suffering. Yeah, the record labels are doing great because of streaming, but creatively, we're definitely suffering. We're suffering.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think even right now with the preset, I call it the preset generation, right? It's
that's what it is.
It's kind of like, I mean, no disrespect to those that utilize those things, because to me, I think that you can get inspired by anything. That's what sampling was,
Right.
It was like, oh, I'm inspired and, let me take this and do something new with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you actually had to take something that was created and then you had to put your own flair on it and make something original.
Mm-hmm.
These days, I see, people coming in and this is all great, but there's presets for everything. And
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to mix your record or whatever the case is, or trying to, do something different, all you do is you just put it in this preset and whip it up. And then now it turns into, a mega smash or a big hit, or you can send it off to, like a center that will make it sound loud on the radio. And you have no, there's no, you're not touching the record. You're not feeling the record. You're just sending it off and then you're getting it back. And so, and I think we see that across the board, even music, with food, with, society. What are the things that we can, sit at home and, let me call up Uber Eats. I mean, I use all these things or whatever. Let me call this. It's fast. Right. It's efficient.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right. It's about, what do you call it? It's just pure laziness, but that's being passed on from, it's being passed down now, which is sad. But, a few years back, we thought that autotune would be dead now. We thought, oh, it's going to be over. But being that we're so used to, being that we're still afraid, and afraid to work hard, that we still have autotune. It's like in the recording process, producers don't make singers work. So, oh no, don't worry, I'll fix that. Don't worry.
That's
so it's
true.
always it's all about comfort. It's all about. So I don't know if working hard has the same meaning as it used to have. Yeah, people grind. Yeah, but what does that mean now? Do we really grind? Or do we really work hard? Because everything is about comfort. It's about, oh, I'll fix it later. Oh, don't worry about it. So what are artists really, really learning about hard work if they don't work hard inside the studio and take that hard work to the stage? So we pass down this, don't worry about it now, we'll fix it later type of mentality. And that's the type of stuff that bugs me, because I come from the era where we worked hard. Of course, some things you want to make things easier for you so you don't work so hard on things that are meaningless. But, you just want to make sure that something that you want to have some gratitude of things. And I think we kind of lost that.
Totally.
It's about money now.
Yeah.
Go, put it out. Hurry up. Go, done. Put it out. So yeah, it's just a crazy time.
Yeah, definitely a balance with that. The coolest thing about you is the fact that, you don't just talk, you walk, and breaking that mold, thinking about, the recent release of Tyler, the Creator's Igor, right? I think that all these things that we just, talked about, and, just social from a social standpoint, from a sonic standpoint, and from a grind standpoint, like I think that album totally breaks those barriers, you know, like, and can you walk us through kind of you know, one, how that relationship started, but also like, I mean, to me, that was the one record that I listened to that I was like, amongst the chaos, you know, you have a body of work that comes out and you naturally feel like, whoa, like this sonically speaks to me in a different way, you know, like where it doesn't sound like they just threw an ozone plugin on there and call it a day, you know, or, you know, any of these other plugins, whatever. It was like, wow, you can feel like the way the drums are crunchy and like, where did, like, you could feel that there was time and blood and sweat and tears put into this. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I've always been a Tyler fan since Goblin, and you know, the singles he would put out, albums, and but never thought that I would get that call to work with him, because he was always had this edginess to him and this type of sound that I didn't think that he would want me to get involved with to do something else to it. So, but I got the call when he wanted to make Flower Boy, you know, and so you know, I was honored to sit down with him, talk to him, and it was so I wasn't sure what our conversation was going to be about, because my sound I didn't think would make any sense in his world, so I sat down with him and I learned that he's an amazing mind. This guy listens to all types of music. And so this was his album. The Flower Boy album was the album that he wanted to care about sonics, because the past records they were just, you know, he really didn't, it felt, you know, he said it wasn't really about the sonics, just put it out and just wanted to do some crazy stuff and, you know, say whatever. But this record, Flower Boy, he really wanted to say something. He wanted it to be beautiful. He wanted it to be, you know, sonically right, you know what I mean? And I was shocked, and I was like, wow, I'd be honored to work with you, because he loved how the OUTKAST record sounded and a lot of stuff that I worked on. So just to know that he was listening, it was like, wow. So like this was his coming out to really make an incredible album and to prove to people that he can do it, that he wasn't just one dimensional, you know what I mean? So it was a great experience, and I learned a lot from him too. And because he just how he put things, I always call it this abstract painting, and that's what he creates. But Flower Boy didn't become that abstract, wasn't that abstract painting. It was a painting, but it had a lot of colors, and you know, it's hard to explain. It was it was a whole different thing than what he normally does.
Did you find
it was a flip? It was a 180 from Cherry Bomb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cherry Bomb was harsh and, you know, whatever. And then making Flower Boy, it was just, you know, it was about creating incredible bridges and, you know, verses and choruses and hooks and stuff. And it was melodies, and it was incredible. And then going to Igor, he wanted to prove that he can rap and whatever, but he didn't really rap that much on Flower Boy. On Igor, but he wanted to create this type of rock album, but it wasn't rock. It was something else. And the title Igor, sitting down talking to him, he said Igor really didn't mean anything. It's more of a feel, you know, as far as a title. Yeah. It's just a feel, because he was like, I said, why would you call it Igor? He said, I don't know. That's what I felt. And when I first heard the demos, I said, man, this is an abstract painting, because there is no form to it. It goes from, you know, there is no definitive verses. If you listen to it, it's not a conventional record, as far as meaning that it's not verse, chorus, bridge, or whatever. It's whatever he felt at that moment. As far as the arrangements of the album or each song, it's just what he felt. And I think he created something new, something that people never heard. And it wasn't about having the vocals loud so you can hear it, because nowadays vocals are in your face. And he purposely didn't want the vocals up loud. He wanted them sometimes to be ducked down, depending on, because he wanted everything to be encompassed within the sound and not about hearing what he's talking about. It was about, okay, the verse is going to be inside this song here, and which I love that, because sometimes I think nowadays we put everything on the wall for you to hear. And it's not about hearing everything at that moment. Why can't you hear something 5 years later? You know what I mean? Say, oh, wow, I've never noticed that. Or I didn't notice that he said that in the song. But now we want everything to be heard, every word, every syllable, every that. And sometimes like that's not what music is about. I'm sure that there's some old Stevie Wonder songs you listen to now and you didn't hear that particular thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
within the song.
Yeah.
Or you listen to a Shaka Khan, Rufus song, whatever. You listen to a Motown song, and you didn't hear that at that moment, because it wasn't about everything being heard right in your face. And you know, being a mixer, a lot of people don't put their time into mixing a record either, and that's what we want to do. Like we wanted to care about every little thing about Igor and Flower Boy too. It started with Flower Boy. You know, we wanted it to be sonically beautiful. You know, we wanted it to be right. We wanted the mix to match the song. We wanted it to be a marriage. You know, and a lot of times we don't have that in music now. People don't care about the sonics, you know, and because I come from the school where you care about the mix. Like you care about the production as much as you care about the mix. And for him wanting to get back to that, because he's a music encyclopedia. He will tell you who worked on that song, but you know who played on it, who produced it, everything. He gets deep into music, and not just I'm talking about jazz records, R&B records, all types of stuff.
Wow,
like he's that dude. And
you got that trivia on lock.
He's that guy, man. He's told me that he wasn't a kid that played with toys. He was a guy that he would go into somebody's house and go straight for the CD rack. Right for the album rack and look at credits. You know, I mean, that's crazy because I was a credit fiend when I was little too. I played with toys. I love toys, but you know, I loved credits. So it was great to find that out about him that a lot of people don't know, that he's a record nerd. You know what I mean? He's not that guy that you think he is. He loves to have fun. He loves to have crazy fun, but there's another side to Tyler that a lot of people just don't know. The guy is brilliant, you know what I mean? So I'm curious to know what he's going to make next. But I think he definitely pushed the envelope on this album, on this Igor album. And I'm really curious about the Grammys, how that's going to turn out. Because I think he should have, when it came to Flower Boy, I think he should have got more accolades for that album.
Totally.
So I'm curious to see what they're going to do for Igor.
Yeah, I mean, moving on from, you know, the Flower Boy to Igor, were there any fears like creating the next album that, you know, I can imagine, you know, we can look at the past stuff that he did, right, which are just as great. But this is, to me, the prime, like where you really, I feel like he's had some time to think and been around a lot of great people to kind of influence his artistic ability, right? Going to Flower Boy and then now moving on to Igor and then whatever else he comes up with. But was there any fear amongst, you know, the time that you guys were working together? Just like, wow, we're creating something new. That's, to me, that is something that is, you know, like, how do you know when something's right that you've never created before?
Working on Igor, I didn't know if people were going to get it. And I always give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, I always want to give people more credit than what it is. But while mixing the album, I got it because I'm just as crazy. Because I just love different things. I love pushing the envelope. I love making people think. And I think this album made people think. It made people expand their creativity, you know? So But making this album, I didn't know what people were going to think. I just thought that it was going to be a love-hate thing, because people can be cruel, and some people don't want to think outside the box. And so when I got so much love from this record, and people, sometimes people will say, yeah, I love the record, but they won't talk about the sonics. And with this record, a lot of people hit me up about the sonics. And I was like, wow, people are listening.
Yeah.
And I thought people stopped listening, and it made me rethink things and go, wow, people just need more. That's all it is. People just need, it's like we need to stop shortchanging people. That's what it is. Stop shortchanging the consumer. And that's what we're doing by not putting our hearts into a record as a whole. Stop rushing these records out. It's about, go, go, go. And I'm not saying take 2-3 years to make an album. I'm not saying that, but stop taking one or two days. Let's really put our thoughts into making great records again. Even making conceptual records. That was fun. And let's start making records where we have one producer on it rather than multiple producers. It's great to I'm not saying let's stop giving people jobs, but let's start focusing on a producer working with an artist where they have time to really think it over and really manifest something that's great. But when you're making these compilation albums, you're not really giving an artist a chance to make something great. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of work that we need to do. And I think that comes down to who's in charge of these records. We really need to get music lovers back into these records again. A lot of it is about, it's about dollars and cents. And it's not, George Clinton said, let's take it to the stage. It's about being, let's really be competitive again. And I think we've stopped doing that, taking pride in our own sound and being competitive. But now we're just joining parties. Let's stop joining parties. Let's start making war again, but loving war. Where we just come in there and we have our sound. Like, okay, this is my sound. You know what I mean? So let's get back to that.
I think that's a great place to be. And
listen, I mean, come back. I'm saying the one producer thing because of Quincy making Thriller and Phil Ramone making, working with Billy Joel and, George Martin working with the Beatles. And, I would love to see that again. You know what I mean? I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to make my point known about great albums. You know what I mean? Of course, you had the artists produce albums, like Stevie Wonder produced himself, Prince produced himself, but there's a way to get back to making great albums, to having, not just having a team. That's the thing. Once we have a team again, we can make great albums again. You know what I mean? It's that the producer, the engineer, and the artist, or the producer, the engineer, and the band. You know what I mean? David Foster produced in Chicago, and it's just we can just, it's a lot that we need to work on. And producing an artist, making an album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, definitely. I mean, I think that one thing that I've been racking my mind on a lot lately is the same concept that you've talked about, right? Mm-hmm. Is going back to the one producer, the idea of the team, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think about that a lot, and I think about, okay, am I living in the past of like what was rather mm-hmm. than what is, mm-hmm. or am I in a place where, those concepts need to integrate with what is actually happening now? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In a sense of, what does the one producer look like now that mm-hmm. he has multiple, mm-hmm. tools that we didn't have? Mm-hmm. I mean, even further back, I would say 10 years ago, the game was, I couldn't take my Apollo to, Starbucks and start working on a record mm-hmm. or whatever, but being able to implement some of the newer things into how we look at the modern day producer, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than, I was taught from, a young age producer wise, you're the first one to touch the record, the last one it leaves, and then growing up and then getting signed and now learning a different way of production, which like you said, it's like I never comped actually. Like before I got signed, I wasn't comping, sitting there going through comps and Melodyne and stuff and doing all this stuff to make it perfect or whatever. I was like, no, that was the wrong take. Okay, let's get the right take. And that's how I learned, And so I think that
it's about feel. It's about pure feel, but now it's about mechanics.
Yeah.
Rather than human human spirit.
And I think that goes even deeper to, we have AI running stuff or whatever. I'm not going to get into this big old, conspiracy theory. But what I'm going to say is that I think that as humans, we have gotten to a place that we don't like ourselves enough. So we need something else to stimulate, but also do these things for us that make it easier, but also, disengage from our, humanly activity. For example, going to the bathroom with your phone was so foreign, like it's like having another person there in the bathroom with you.
Yeah, you take your newspaper with you or the latest issue of whatever magazine that you loved or a good book. But now we can't go to the bathroom without taking our phones because we're afraid to miss something. It's so funny. I think about that a lot, we're just that phone is our crutch now because, we used to have patience that we would wait to get home to check our voicemail. But now everything's like, we got to have we got to text, we got to call. Everything's now. And I think that goes into everything that we do, especially the music business. It's our patience is gone. And that comes back to really taking time to make great albums because our patience is thin.
Yeah.
And we've got people who are running these labels whose patience are thin. So, so how are we going to fix this whole thing where as technology gets worse, I call it worse, our patience is gone. I think it's going to come down to having like a hologram conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think the evolution of the evolution of the creative, but the outlier, right? Like, kind of like what you have done with Tyler and even in your own career is being able to say, hey, no, there's all this food over here. Like there's all this food as far as what everybody's gravitating towards, and they eat it and they throw it away because it has no substance. And then there's a utopia of food over here that's more of like, this is new. Oh, wow. And it's sustainable, actually. Like I can eat this and it actually makes me, it's like same thing with food. You know what I mean? It's like we have Burger King and then we have, Mastro's or we have, Whole Foods and stuff. Right. And, the way our minds are conditioned is, okay, I think about this all the time when I'm thinking about like people that, and no disrespect, eat your McDonald's, eat your, Burger King or whatever. But I'm like, okay, you're thinking short term right now. You're thinking, oh, this is nourishment for my body at this moment. $1, cool. I think about it like, okay, there's this $1 burger. What kind of substance does it have as far as longevity? Because this can cause a long-term effect later on in my life, which is going to cost me, thousands of dollars or whatever. Right. And so I think the same thing with music. It's like, oh, we can go and get this. There's a new playlist, new songs, new things. And, the workflow these days are way, the turnaround time is way faster than it was even 10 years ago, where it's like, wow, this guy's coming out with an EP and a mixtape and a package and all these things to sell records. Right. And then you have those outliers that, like Adele that can come out like every 3 years. I'm not saying that or 5 years or whatever the case. I'm not saying that that's what we need to do. But I do think that those prominent characters have to continue to let other people know, because there's other people like, what, my body doesn't naturally feel like I want to, just put out flash in the pan records. I actually want to take this journey, but the when there's not that many people on that side of like showing like it can be done, like Tyler, I was inspired. I was like, wow, like that can be done in this generation where just like how you mentioned, you know, there's no hooks, no like, okay, for the pop person that's very mathematical, he's going to look at it and be like, what is this record? And this will not survive. And it demonizes and kind of tears down this idea of actually being a creative and actually being human, you know, in the way that you want to be. And so I definitely think, you know, as far as solution wise, you know, having more outliers, more people. And it's sad that that is what an outlier is, because back in the day, it wasn't really like how you said that way. But the evolution of that is being able to use these tools in order to evolve sounds and evolve things, but make it yours and be the you know, the new producer of what we know. Because I know that traditional and modern has changed over time, but we have to embrace what is actually happening, you know.
So. Right. And it's crazy that, you know, with all this technology and all that we're doing, I mean, with all these artists that we have out, because of the internet, we have all this, but at the end of the day, what are going to be the classic songs that are coming from this era? And it because every time we go to a party, what really gets the party started is an older song. Nothing new.
It's true. Yeah.
You know, so it shows you that this era is not really making classic records because we're not going to be able to decipher what that is, because it's all glumped together like clay. You know what I mean? Nothing stands out. Yeah, we have our songs that are on the charts for a certain amount of weeks, but at the end of the day, when we look back 20 years later, are we going to be? Is that going to be the party starter song? You know, it might be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I do. But what's gonna, you know, because you go to a party and that song by Biggie gets you up.
Yeah. Songs
by certain people get you up. And that these are 20-something-year-old songs.
Totally.
Or more. So these are just, you know, so we're making paper planes now, basically. You're just throwing it and it just dives. It goes for a minute and then just dies, you know what I mean? And so we really have to get back to making classic records. And it's sad that we got all this technology, but it shows you that a lot of people are not doing it for the love, because they see it as it's such a money game now, that it's really not about the love anymore. I know when I was coming up, I wasn't thinking about the money first, but a lot of times, a lot of these creative beings are thinking about the money first, of how they can make money from this industry. But when I was coming up, it wasn't about how I was going to make the money. It was about, you know, how I was going to be in the creative process and get noticed for being a creative person and being popular for that. And the money came later. You know, it was more about maybe getting girls or something, but it wasn't about the money. And I think now that people are getting into this business based on the monetary things, it brings this business down, and it's crowded. You know what I mean? And you know, you get a lot of the same stuff. It's a lot of, you know, it's like General Motors, the same car, maybe a different hubcap, but it's the same dashboard. You know what I mean? And I'm curious to see how this industry is going to be in the next 20 years. You know, how, you know, are we going to turn it around, or is it just going to get worse? And don't get me wrong, I love this industry. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of good things coming out of it, but I just want us to, you know, we have to get back to the love of it, you know what I mean, rather than the money side.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I think not just because you're on the show, but just because, you know, I think that scarcity comes back into mind. You know, that's all I think about. It's great to see. Honestly, I think there's that good and the bad side. It's great to see these young guys that don't have to go through the model that, you know, I guess the older generation had to go through, which is, you know, this artist development, you know, hey, we'll sit you on we'll sign you for a lot of money, but we're just going to put you up on the shelf. And if, you know, if it works out, it works out. But if it doesn't, I mean, I can imagine what that feels like to be signed at a high rate and people are interested in you, and then they just throw you off the face of the earth, or some of these other stories that I've heard over time. It is good and inspiring to see that kids and younger adults are trying. They're like, what, like, if little Nas X can do it, like maybe I can do it. And, I love that aspect of where the music industry is going, in that sense of, they don't know, like they're not being taught correctly because they're just, going on. Or let me rephrase that. I don't want to say correctly because that's just my perspective, but also they're just going like, hey, I can get this program and I can just make music. Of course, for what we know, that's not what a producer, that's a beat man or somebody,
right.
But
that word producer, that's a whole nother subject.
Totally. But being able to actually be like, what, like I can do this, and I want to pick up guitar and play. And, I do think there's a few people out there that are just going after the fact that, I just want to express myself. And I like people looking, being a part of it. But I think that transition is a lot faster, but nonetheless, the oversaturation is a bit much, when we're listening to what we're listening on the radio,
And, I mean, I like, and don't get me wrong too, I like the side of the industry where, because I don't want to come off like I got all these negative things about it. There's a lot of positive things, and the positive side of this industry is that I love that it allows us creatives to create our own businesses within the internet, and we don't have to rely on a label. Because back in the day, you'd send your demos into a label or wherever, and hoping that they listen to it. But now, you can put your stuff up on the internet and get a hit, and people just react to it. And then now you're a business. Now you're being forced to really create your own labels, which is great. So everybody's creating their own little Motowns out there, which is the great side of the business, where you don't have to wait for this big conglomerate to tell you that you are worthy of being signed, when you just create your own things. That's the beauty of the internet. But at the same time, it's being abused in some ways too, with the people who are not getting in it for the right reasons. They get into it for the flash and the cars, and because they see, their favorite artists, looking a certain way and wearing certain things. So now they want to get into it because, oh, that's the money gig. You know what I mean? So let me just create something and say some crazy hook, and so people can chant back, and this call and response hook, and now the song is a hit now. So that's the sad part of the business. But I think the good part is people can create their own labels, within the internet. iTunes, and we got Spotify, we got Deezer, we got all these different outlets, which is really, really cool.
Totally. Yeah. And this brings me to my favorite part of the hype hour, which is the hype moment, right?
Okay,
and
right.
so I gotta
get hype. I gotta get hype.
Let's get hype. All right. So
I'm such a laid back guy. I can't get hype. No.
We're gonna switch it up today, and the hype hour, I want to ask you 5 questions.
Okay. Hope I can answer it. Let's go.
And we're just gonna go straight. I'm just gonna spitfire it. If you were on an island, what would you take with you?
Oh man.
One thing.
See, that's hard. That's the worst question to ask me, because I'm all over the place. Just a thing.
Yeah.
So I get in trouble if I say if I didn't mention my wife, right? So it's got to be a thing. Is it that? I don't know, man. The first thing, what comes to mind? The first thing I would take with me. Oh man. Okay. First thing that comes to mind is Parliament's live album, I guess.
Okay. Boom. All right. 5 top 10 rappers, dead or alive.
I can't name 10.
I mean, 5 top. I'm sorry. 5. Top 5.
Top 5.
Dead or alive.
Jay-Z, Biggie, Busta Rhymes, Nas, Chuck D, Those are the 5 that come to my mind as the people that I really admire. That was 5.
Let's go. No, 4.
That was 4? I thought that was 5. I said Jay-Z, Biggie, Busta Rhymes, Chuck D, Nas.
Oh, okay.
5.
5.
I'm missing somebody though.
3 Stacks ain't on there?
Who?
3 Stacks?
Yeah, Andre. I'm sorry, my mind goes blank when I think of people. Definitely on Andre. Definitely Andre 3000. That's 6. So you put me on the spot now because my brain doesn't work that way. I'd be the worst person to be up on a podium thanking people. I'd be the worst. I'd get in trouble because I get overwhelmed.
You can give us 6. That's cool.
That's it, man.
Okay.
Sorry, Andre. I get overwhelmed. I'm sorry.
No.
That's like going shopping and I can't just. I have to go into a store and get it and leave. I can't go in there and window shop. And no, if I can't get in and grab it, I'm not going.
Yeah, no, I get it. And then 2 top albums of all time.
Oh man, I got so many. You can't do that to me, man.
All right, fine. Michael or
man.
Prince?
Michael or Prince? Michael. I started off Michael. What is inspired me to get in this, to be in this business. I'm talking about dark skinned Michael. I'm talking about Michael from the Jackson 5. That's what Michael inspired me to get into this business, listening to Motown 45 as I was a kid, Jackson 5 records. That's what inspired me, man.
Okay. Let's do, I think that's it. Let's do 3 right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
If you got another one, come on.
Okay, let me get you another one.
Let's go for it.
Let's go for another one. All right. Where is your safe place?
My safe place is within myself. Having a building or something or a room is a safe place. I don't know if I have that. It's within myself. It's I hate to get all metaphysical and religious or spiritual, but it's within me. That's my safe place is to be, safe within myself. A lot of people are not safe within themselves, so they have to find, people, places, or things to feel safe. But I think it has to start with you. You have to be safe within yourself. If you're safe within yourself, then you could be anywhere, and not have to have a safe place.
Favorite pair of speakers to mix on?
Oh, that's easy. That was the easiest question ever, man. Thank you. JBL 708P and JBL 705P. Definitely, man.
Let's go.
And that's a plug right there for JBL.
Boom. Let's go. Cool.